Welcome to this JavaScript array tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the following methods that you can use on arrays. Starting out, we're going to go through for each, filter, sort, reverse, map, reduce, join, split, push, splice, and slice. Starting out, I'll show you how I have my project set up. I just have two files, index.html and index.js. Index.html includes an input, two buttons, and the script link. In the index.js file, I have three variables declared: input, add button, run button, and these will be used to interact with our website and the array that we're going to create further in this tutorial. So let me go ahead and I'll comment these out by hitting Control/. And I have two event listeners down here, one for the on click for the add button and another on click for the run button. So to get started, let's go ahead and I'll collapse this for now. We'll come back to it. Let's add an array here that we can work with. So I have an array that has three elements. All of them are fruits. For our first function we'll look at, the for each function, we'll go ahead and come down to our run button, and for each of the elements of our fruits array, let's just log out its value. All right, come over to the side, and over here on the right hand side, I am using a live server extension in VS Code to load the HTML. So I can go ahead, Control R, which will load the new code, and click run. And this, you'll see, console logs each element of our array on its own line. That is what for each does. It is a for loop that goes over every element of the array, giving you the value, which you can then do whatever you want with. I am just logging it. Most of these arrays will use arrow functions to specify what we want done. However, I could do the same thing using a more normal function. If I wanted to write it out like this. So I have a new function down here, print val, and it takes a value and it logs it out. If I were to just take this name and put it there, refresh, run, you'll see it does the exact same thing. I'll be using arrow functions because that's kind of the standard, but you could do it this way, and this is another way of thinking about it. All right, so that's the for each loop. Pretty simple. The next one we'll look at is filter. Filter is awesome if you want to reduce an array to whatever amount of elements you're looking for. So we have an array of apples, and or of fruits, my bad. And let's say we want to filter to fruits that only have, or to only fruits that have an E in the name. All right, so the first thing we need to do is declare a new variable. So we'll call it new fruits equals, and then fruits.filter. Once again, this is going to give us our value. And let's say if value dot search, the letter E, is greater than or equal to 0, that'll return true. So what filters is looking for, the filter method is looking for, is a Boolean. If whatever this equation evaluates to is true, that element of the array will be returned in the new array. If it is false, it'll be excluded. So what this is going to do, for every value in our fruits array, run a search on it for the letter E. If the search returns a value that's greater than or equal to 0, then return true. All right, if we were to go ahead and just console our new fruits, go ahead and refresh our page once again and run it, you'll see we only get apple and lemon back. Banana was not included in that return. So that's how we can use filter. I'm going to go ahead and declare another array here called nums. And let's just do every number between 1 and 9, let's say. If we wanted to do the same thing with this our nums array, we could go ahead and just update these variables. And then let's say we want to only get numbers returned that are greater than, let's say 5. All right, so we should expect 6 through 9 back. Go ahead and log out those new nums, refresh our browser, and you'll see that's what's returned. It's important to note that if we were to log out the previous numbers, let me go ahead and add a tag here. So this is going to be the new, and this will be old. And we run it. It's important to note that the previous array is not modified by filter. It creates a new array with the values that have been filtered from the old array. And so we could go on and further use the old array further down in our code, and it wouldn't be changed from this filter method that was applied. So it's important to keep that in mind for the filter method. The next one we're going to look at is sort. So sort works in a little bit different of a way from the last two. It takes a function that's a compare function that will give you A and B. So A is one number or one element of the array, B is the next element of the array, and it says, give me some function to compare these and tell me how to sort them, right? So I'm going to give you two elements, tell me which way I should sort these. So for our numbers array, let's say it gives us 1 and then it gives us 2. If we want to sort in ascending order, so 1 through 9, the way it is now, we would do A is less than B. Then this is actually looking for a integer in return. So -1 means sort up, 1 means sort down, and 0 will remain the same. So if we wanted to sort this in ascending order, we do A minus B, right? Because that would give us 1 minus 2 is -1. Go ahead and console log new nums, refresh, and you'll see it's in the exact same order. Now, if we were to do B minus A, refresh and run, you'll see we have it in descending order. Let me go ahead and create a random nums array. So we have just a bunch of random numbers in no particular order. All right. And if we were to do the same thing on our randoms num array, sort it in descending order, we will see that it is indeed sorted in descending order. We can do the same thing. We do A minus B. And there you go. Refresh, and it's in ascending order. Now, what if we wanted to sort our fruits array in alphabetical order? Well, it already is in alphabetical order, so maybe let me switch apple and lemon. Have them switch spots, so it's no longer in alphabetical order. Well, then I could do const new fruits equals fruits dot sort. We don't need to include a compare function for this. JavaScript will handle that automatically. So we can go ahead and run that, and you'll see it's in alphabetical order. Now, if we want it in reverse alphabetical order, this is where we can use our reverse function or our reverse method. Following this, we'll just take every element and swap places, right? So 0 will become 2, 1 will stay where it's at because that's in the center. And everything is reversed. Moving along, let's go into our map function. So map kind of works like for each. We first need to specify, or it works a little more like filter. So we need to specify a new variable, and then nums dot map value, and then what do we want to happen to this value? So what map does is it goes over every element of the array like a for loop, and then for each element, run this function and return some kind of change to a new array. So let's say for our numbers, we want to add 10 to the number, right? All right, so what map does is say we have this array of numbers and we wanted to add 10 to each element of that array. Well, you could write a for loop and go over every one and change the array, or you could use map. And so map goes over each element and then edits that element in whatever way we specify and returns it to the new array. So let's do value plus 10, right? So this function will return value plus 10 to our new nums. Let's go ahead and log that out. Refresh, run, you'll see every value had 10 added to it. So what map does is does a for loop on every element of the array, and for each element, let's alter it in some way or do some kind of calculation and return whatever comes back from that function to a new array, right? So if I wanted to do my fruits array, call this new fruits, I could have value, and let's add an S to the end of each string. So go ahead, refresh, run. And you'll see that an S has been added to each element of the array. This is super useful for manipulating data you may be getting back from an API, or in WebLite, or in different front-end libraries like React. It can help you dynamically render elements onto the web page. All right, moving on from map. Let's do reduce. So reduce is probably the most difficult array function to understand. One way to think about it is we have some kind of accumulator, right? So our sum. And we first specify that sum is equal to something, so 0. And then for each element of the array, so let's use a normal for loop, const value of nums, our array nums. Let's do something to that accumulator, right? So we have the value. Why don't we do sum plus equals the value? All right, and at the very end, let's just log out sum. If we were to run this, we get 45. That's the sum of all these numbers in the array. But this, it takes up quite a few lines of code. We could write it as const. I don't like having sum used twice, so I'm going to let this be let sum. Let's call this old sum. All right, and console log it. So now let's call const new sum equals numbers dot reduce, and then what this needs is a previous value. So we're going to say that this is sum, the current value, and then an index, which we may not use for this example. Okay. So the last thing you can specify in this method is what sum starts as. So up here we have it starting at 0. Let's do 0 again. All right. So now what this is going to do is for every element of the array, right, just like this for loop, give me the value and the previous value of sum. So if this is the first iteration of this array, we'll get 0 because that's the first value of sum. That's the initial value we set. And we'll get 1 from the array. So let's do sum plus equals value. Okay, does that make sense? So we have value coming in from the array, which would be 1 for the first iteration. Sum, which is going to be 0 for our first iteration because we specified it that way. And we're adding the value of value to sum. And then the final thing we need to do is return sum, so they can be used in the next iteration. All right. So after this, let's go ahead and console log our new sum, and we will see that is equal to the old sum. There we go. It is equal. So what if we don't want sum to start at 0? Let's have it start at 20, right? This is the exact same as changing this to 20. We can refresh, run it, and so we're 20 more than we were before. All right, hopefully that understands. This can be used in many, many ways, and it's very much the most complex of these functions, but it is also very useful, and it's good to learn. If I wanted to make this much more concise, a one-liner, I could backspace all this, I don't need I. I'm not going to use it for this example. And all I need to do is sum plus equals value. And then give it the initial value to start with. And this is exactly the same. So refresh, run. So we've just condensed this code into one line. Now, there's obviously many other uses, like I said, but this is a great example of how reduce works. You pretty much have a for each loop that gives you the value at that element of the array and keeps an accumulator for you to manipulate in whatever way you want. This doesn't have to be a number. It can be an object that you're adding values to. It could be a string that you're concatenating a bunch of stuff together. You know, whatever you can think of. This doesn't need to be a number. It can be any data type you want to use. All right, so that's reduce. Let's look at something like join. Join probably makes most sense if I make a new array here. Let's just call it a letters array. So we have A, P. Let's just spell apple. P, P, L, E. Now, what if I wanted to take all these elements in this array and make a string out of it? Super easy to do. I could just do const string equals letters dot join, and you can specify what character you want to go in between, but I don't want anything. I just want an empty string. I just want each character to be joined together. Let's console.log that string. Go ahead and refresh. You'll see I just got a string back. I turned this array into a string with the join. Now, if I were to put a hyphen in here, you would see that it would be hyphenated. So super useful. You can use it many different ways. The kind of opposite of join is split. So if I had the string, call it word equals apple, but let's say I had those hyphens in there. What if I wanted to turn this into an array excluding hyphens? Well, what I can do is const array equals word dot split, and then the character that we want to split on. So we're going to use that hyphen. Let's console log it. Refresh, run, boom. We get an array, 5 elements, 1 element for each letter in this string, right? So what this does is it goes through every letter of this array until it hits a special character that we've just defined right here. When it hits that, it says, oh, okay, that's 1 element. Make it its own element in the array. Delete the special character and move forward. So now we're on P. Oh, I hit the special character again. Make P its own element. And once again, delete this character. All right, so that is split. Let's move on to some array manipulation, where you can actually remove, add different values to an array. So we're going to go ahead and use our add button here. And we want to be able to type into this text box and add whatever we type in here to our fruits array. So let's first get the value of the input.value. And then all we need to do is fruits.push input value. That's all there is to it. And we can go ahead and let's just log out the array fruits. Refresh our browser once again. And let's add, I don't know, an orange. You'll see orange is added to the back of the array, to the very end of it. I can continue to add more if I wanted to. Let's say we add a lime. Add. You'll see it's at the end of the array now. Super easy, very useful. What if we wanted to remove values from that array? Well, let's go down to our run button again. And if we want to take fruits, and we want to remove the last element of the array, just call fruits.pop, console.log fruits. Refresh, run. So there you go. Last element of the array is removed. We can go ahead and add an orange. You'll see over here on the right hand side, orange is the last element of the array. Run it, boom, orange is gone. Super simple stuff. Let's say we want to do shift, get rid of the first element in the array. It's the same thing. Run. Oh, banana is now gone from the array. It was in the original one, it's now gone. add orange to the end. Let's add lime again. And if we run it, you'll see lemon has disappeared from the array. So shift and pop are almost equivalent. Shift just removes from the front, pop removes from the back. Okay. If we want to remove from the center of the array, it's a little more difficult. We'll need to know what the index is of the element we want to remove. So what we can do is, let's say, from our original array, let's remove lemon, right? It's right in the middle of the array. We can't use shift or pop. But what we can do is we can use array.splice. Now this is pretty much going to take your array and split it at whatever index we specify, delete from that index forward however many spaces we specify. So lemon is at index 1. So we'll do index 1. And we only want to go forward 1. Right? We only want to remove lemon. Go ahead and save, refresh, run. Lemon's gone. So from index 1, remove 1 element forward. If we wanted to remove 2 elements and get rid of lemon and apple, we could do that. So we're just left with banana. Splice is interesting though. If we want to insert something after, let's say, let's add lime. So we're going to remove lemon and apple and insert lime. There you go. So pretty much the way to think about this is starting at this index, remove this many values forward, and then add in whatever we specify after. So that's an easy way to remove from the middle of an array. All right, so what if I wanted to, instead of altering the array I have now, just remove an element or many from the middle of the array and then give me a new array? They made it easy on us. So new fruits equals, instead of splice, we have slice. And you can't specify any values to add on this one. So what this is going to do is the same thing as splice. Index 1, delete 2 forward from there. But instead return it to a new array and don't alter the array I already have. So let's go ahead and let's say this is fruits and old fruits. And then we can just add new fruits. Sorry, this should say new, not old. Run that, you'll see our fruits array was not changed. Even though we ran this, it remains the same. But the new array that we got is only lemon, because that's what was returned from this function. So those are the basic JavaScript array methods. Very useful. You can get so much done with data manipulation using these methods, and they're worth learning. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please like and subscribe. I have many more coming, and thanks for watching.